What's going on, Dub Nation? You're watching Warriors Today by Chat Sports, and we have some unfortunate news to discuss on today's show. Warriors injury news back in the loop as Gary Payton II has unfortunately torn a ligament in his left thumb and will miss an indefinite amount of time at this point, according to the team. We got the notification from Shams Charania of ESPN earlier today, and Anthony Slater gave some more insight on it as well. But he will be reevaluated in 1 week. He will miss Friday's upcoming game against the New Orleans Pelicans. He suffered it in the Miami Heat game back on Tuesday, and this stinks because Gary Payton has been an unbelievable performer for Golden State over the back half of this season, and really ever since the Jimmy Butler trade, he has been the beneficiary of a lot of hustle plays and easy opportunities to score at the basket. He has been awesome, and we know how excellent of a defender GP2 is. We'll talk about all this injury and unravel it all and talk about who is going to take over in his absence in just a moment. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel. This is why you subscribe. When the Warriors get news, we make a video and bring you guys content right here at Warriors Today. So lock us in, go down below, hit that big red sub button for free Warriors content every day on YouTube. Okay, so let's talk about this injury that GP2 suffered. According to Shams Charania, the team announced that it is a torn ligament in that thumb, and he is expected to be reevaluated in 1 week, like I said. And they say that the ligament tear is expected to be a pain tolerance injury once the initial week goes by after treatment and rehab. So not something that's going to keep him out super long term, but man, there's only 10 games left of the regular season. This is a guy who over the past 16 games has been averaging over 10 points a night. He's been shooting 50% from three-point range. He's been crashing the offensive glass. Like, think about how many shots Golden State misses a night. And think about how many second chance opportunities that Golden State gets when they get an offensive rebound. How many times is Gary Payton the one crashing the glass, putting up back a putback, finishing through contact, and being in that dunker spot and kind of roaming around there on the low block as kind of this really small ball power forward kind of player. He has been excellent, and you can also, he's such a versatile player that you can put him on the other team's best guards. You can play him bigger against maybe a wing or even a four down there, and he will give it 110% every single time. Like, that's kind of the brand and the mantra of Golden State. Their identity is about effort, is about guys who aren't the most technically skilled at basketball outside of guys like Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, and you can talk about a guy like Pods. Like, this team is kind of built upon guys who've gotten out, got it out the mud, like guys who have come up from the bottom and have become carved out rotation players due to their effort, due to their defense, due to the hustle, and due to the little things that they can do on the basketball court. Gary Payton is one of those guys. He's always diving out there on loose balls. And it's an unfortunate loss that he was playing over 20 minutes a game for Golden State as of late, and it was pegged to be a huge rotation piece. He just got the start in that Miami game. I'm not going to say that was the best decision or not per Steve Kerr, but this is a huge loss and a guy who was a big factor in their rotation over the last couple of weeks. I want to bring up a tweet from Anthony Slater because GP2 was in shoot around earlier today. So here's Gary Payton II getting some right-handed work post-practice today. His injured thumb is in a his injured left thumb is in a brace. So again, unfortunate, and it's not really a super replaceable player for Golden State when you think about it. Like, how many guys on this team have the ability to go out there and guard an opponent's team's best one or two at the guard spot, but also be able to be a roamer down there at the low block and be in the dunker spot and be available. And he's also a very effective screen setter as well, which is something that not a lot of players on Golden State are, because he's able to have these crafty finishes around the rim. Like, Kevon Looney's a great screener, but once he gets the ball in his hands down low, I kind of hold my breath on whether or not he's actually going to put it in the cup. GP2, I'm always feeling confident that he's going to go out there and get buckets. So show some love to Gary Payton II down in the comments section. Give me some GP2s down in the comment section, so we know that, and he knows that Dub Nation has his back, and we want him back sooner rather than later. It doesn't look like something that he's going to be out and sidelined for a super long period of time, but there isn't a super long period of time before postseason basketball gets into action, and the Warriors have fallen to that 7 seed, that the place they don't want to be in the Western Conference, the play-in tournament. We'll talk more about who's going to kind of replace Gary Payton in this lineup, and Another injury update on Steph Curry, who is expected to be back on Friday against New Orleans. But first, I got to give a major shout out to today's sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform because it's daily fantasy made easy. And they're always trying to hook you guys up with incredible deals. Like a free $50 in your account when you sign up using our promo code CLNS and place your first $5 entry. Who doesn't love free money? I know I do, and I took advantage of that deal. You might be asking me, Tyler, what does an entry on PrizePicks look like? It's super simple. All you guys got to do is pick a sport, pick multiple sports if you want, and just choose more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And you can watch the real winnings roll in real time watching your favorite sports. I'm talking up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. I can actually think about the one I have off the dome right now for March Madness tonight. I got Braden Smith, who actually isn't playing tonight. He's playing on Friday, but more than 3.5 turnovers against the Houston Cougars. He had 8 against McNeese State, so give me more than 3.5 turnovers for Braden Smith. And then give me Tyrese Proctor more than 14.5 points for the Duke Blue Devils. He has been playing out of his mind, as good as anybody has been playing in the NCAA tournament so far. So give me more than 14.5 points for Tyrese Proctor. You could tail my picks, you could fade my picks. Just make sure you go and do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the promo code CLNS for $50 instantly when you place your first $5 entry. You don't even need to win that entry to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All that information will be clickable down in the comments section and description of today's video. Okay, so let's talk about the rotation for Golden State and what it looks like moving forward. And, obviously, as a player in the rotations, a guy who carves up 20-plus minutes gets hurt, you're going to see a trickle-up effect of the guys that are below him in the rotation kind of come and be more focal point-ish for Golden State's roster. And, yeah, a guy like Guy Santos is going to probably see more time. A guy like maybe Kevin Knox, who just got signed to a standard deal, is going to see more time. But the player who is probably pegged to be in that role, per Steve Kerr, is Jonathan Kuminga. And yes, I'm going to be singing Kuminga's praises if he ends up turning this thing around. The way that he has come back from injury has been lackluster, and it's just been uninspiring, in my opinion, and something that doesn't necessarily fit with what Golden State's trying to do. When he's on the floor with, if you pair him up in 2-man lineups with a bunch of different players on this roster, the net ratings are not all that spectacular. And it's unfortunate. He is an incredibly gifted athlete as a young player, but I'm not so sure Golden State should be willing to invest super high, rich assets and long-term assets into JK. But that's beside the point. Let's talk about him being out on the floor because that's what's going to happen. He's going to be playing a ton of minutes in GP2's absence. Steve Kerr said this. He said it opens up an opportunity for Jonathan Kuminga to be that defensive stopper. The guy we've relied on Gary to be. Now, I don't necessarily think that Kuminga is even on the same planet, realistically, as GP2 as far as his defensive IQ goes. There's no doubt that he has the tools. There's no doubt that he has the length, athleticism, and ability to be physical with guys on the defensive end. But it's the IQ, it's the intangibles, it's the things that you can't see when you're just looking at a guy on the basketball court. It's Gary Payton's intuition to jump passing lanes, for him to gamble on certain opportunities to knock the ball away and create loose ball opportunities. Kuminga just doesn't really have that, in my opinion. And GP2's always, seeing ball, seeing man. Kuminga struggles with being able to pay attention to 2 things at once on the defensive end and really have that defensive IQ locked in. I do think we're going to need to see big-time improvements out of Moses Moody, even though we've seen that he has grown exponentially as a defender ever since the Jimmy Butler trade. He has been tasked with sticking on the opponent's best shot creator or ball handler night in and night out, and he has absolutely stepped up to the challenge on that. But now we're also going to have to see him hit more of his shots consistently. Like I said earlier, GP2 is shooting 50% from 3 over the last 16 games, and albeit not on a super high volume, but some nights he's getting up 3 or 4, and he's hitting 2 or 3 of them. And that is invaluable to a Golden State team that just has not been shooting the ball all that efficiently lately, and specifically Moses Moody, who is 5 of 29 from long range over his last 5 games. That needs to change quickly, but continue to do what you do on the defensive end, Moses Moody, and I won't have too many quarrels with you. Just to start hitting your open shots, and he works a lot better when Steph is out there on the floor with him. And let's get to that Steph Curry injury update now, as Anthony Slater recently revealed on Twitter that Steph Curry went through a 6-minute team scrimmage today in New Orleans. He is about to do an individual workout. Warriors will list him as questionable tomorrow at the Pelicans, but Steve Kerr said he remains optimistic that Curry will return. Now, Steph went through practice the day before the Miami Heat game there on Monday, and he ended up having a movement in that practice that didn't feel so right, and Golden State staff wanted to be extra cautious and keep him out once again for that Heat game. Ended up not being entirely great for Golden State because they got blown their doors got blown off against Miami, and those guys played like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But you're playing a team in New Orleans on Friday that is closer to getting the number one pick than they are to chasing a spot in the play-in tournament, and regardless, like, you need Steph for this game. Like, I thought against the Hawks, against the Heat, like two inferior teams that are probably not even trying to necessarily get that play-in spot in the Eastern Conference at this point. Those guys, I thought Golden State could have got a win without Steph. Like, they played great against the Bucks last week, but man, they just didn't show up to start this road trip. The road trip continues tomorrow against the New Orleans Pelicans, and Steph will hopefully be back for that, and we'll have to see him off the floor 0 times the rest of this regular season and into the postseason. Golden State has as good as anybody in this West opportunity to go out there and make the NBA Finals, but it has to come down to, can they hit shots? It has to come down to, can they stay healthy? It has to come down to, can they play the defense necessary to stop some of the elite creators in the Western Conference, because Golden State just doesn't have that many elite shot creators for themselves on the roster right now. Make sure you are subscribed, though, to Warriors Today, because if anything else happens through the rest of the regular season into the postseason, we will keep you guys updated right here on the channel. So lock us in. Make sure you are subscribed. That will do it for today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports. We'll see you guys all in the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.